I want to be where kids need me most, right? So whatever school that is.
We're not afraid to try new things.
I think it's every parent's right to make a decision as to where they want to send their child.
Public educators should have no fear of school choice.
When people hear the phrase school choice, they usually think about students. But the benefits of choice aren't just for kids.
So that's what we just did, because n minus 2 times 180, that's what gave us the 2160, right?
At the time I was little, I always wanted to be a teacher. In first grade, actually, I was a nerd from the get-go and loved math. And we had to do so many little worksheets before we could go out to recess. And one of my best friends, she had a hard time. I still remember one day she was crying because she couldn't get her worksheet done and she couldn't go out to recess. And so my teacher came over and said, you know, why don't you go help her so she can go? And I took that very seriously. And so instead of just helping her with that one worksheet, we had school at my house every day after school. And we would sit there and I would teach her her math, and I taught her her phone number, and I taught her all of her stuff. And I'm sure I was a complete little snot thinking that I was so cool being her teacher, but I loved it. When I first heard about this job, you know, all my lessons would be online. It actually made my decision much more difficult because it was choosing public school and what I was used to and loved versus this other entity. And so at first I was really skeptical of it, and I loved being up in front of the classroom. I loved interacting with those students. I loved talking to them. And the thought of losing that was scary. That's what I loved. And so she actually had the current math teacher call me and talk to me about her days. And when she told me that I got to spend all my time just helping the students and working with them one-on-one and tutoring them, that's what I loved. And that's what I think sets our school so much apart from some of the others, is we spend the majority of our time working with the students online and video conferencing with them and Skyping with them, and, you know, sharing a whiteboard for me so I can actually work with them. And so I talk to some of my students way more than I ever interacted with my students in a public school, because we spend a lot more quality one-on-one time together working through those lessons, which is wonderful. So I grew up in just a suburb of Salt Lake, just south a little bit in a little area called Holiday. I've actually been here my whole life. My husband grew up a little bit north of Salt Lake in Centerville, and so we both grew up here. We went to rivaling schools, and so I went down to BYU, he went to University of Utah. He says the one thing about me that he has a hard time with is that I went to BYU. He says it hurts his soul that he married a Cougar because he was such a big Ute fan. And so when the game's on, it's game on in our house. We had a little boy this summer. He's 5 months old yesterday, and so it's been great to have him, and to be able to now combine my school life and my home life has been fantastic.
Having her work at the charter school allowed us to have a child without having to worry about who was going to watch him while she was working during the day at school and what kind of care he would be receiving.
Because I can still be home with him and take care of him while still doing what I love, which is teaching. So it's been the best of both worlds.
Well, tangent ratio is somewhat different. Its ratio is, I've said over adjacent. These words are only right triangle, right.
I tell them at the beginning, I was a music major going up to college. And that's what I was. Everything, all my scholarship says, Ronnie Flowers, music major. You know, in fact, it was music performance major. So I said, I didn't want to teach. Mind you, I did not want to teach music. I wanted to perform music, and I wanted to perform. I saw the students and how they reacted to me and to my teaching style, and I said, wow, you know what? I really like this. And one of my lower level students several years back, he came in and said, I'm bad at math. I hate math. I told him what I told all the rest of my students, you will learn how to do this. You follow along with me, ask questions, don't let me leave you, okay? And you will understand math and you'll be awesome at it. And so he asked questions, and he ended up you know, doing really well in my class. And you know, he told me many years later, it was because of your class that I actually went to college and, you know, made something of myself. I have 2 kids, a 9-year-old son and a 7-year-old son. In fact, my oldest son was homeschooled for 2 years, and my younger son is currently being homeschooled, and it's his 2nd year. But now my oldest son goes to year-round public school.
He puts a lot of time into it and a lot of effort and work, and he obviously I know he's told me many times he stays after school to help any student who wants to come, and honestly he opens his door to kids that are not even in his classroom.
What I love about teaching is seeing the students' eyes light up when they finally understand a concept that they've never understood before. Or when they learn something for the first time in math class or in algebra, and they've come from a background of thinking, oh, I can't learn math. But then when I show them how to do it and they ask questions and it works for them, they're like, wow. And you know, that's what made me fall in love with teaching, and that's what I still love about teaching.
Good. 6'10", 6'1". What is the value, listen to my question, what is the value of the digit in the ones place? I think it's something I've always loved to do. I've always loved to work with children. As a 12-year-old, 13-year-old high school, I babysat for years on end, loved being with kids, loved having the interaction. I also worked camps. I always found myself working with children, and I knew right going into college that I was going to be a teacher. I didn't go in with an undecided major. I went in with, I was going to be an elementary school teacher. That's what I wanted to do, and here I am. I love teaching at Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel is a great environment. We're lucky here. We're a very small community, so it's a real family-oriented feel.
I've seen quite a bit of her around children in the neighborhood, obviously with our children, and I can tell it's natural for her. You know, when we first met, she talked about wanting to teach and just being involved in teaching, and you could tell it's just what she enjoys. It's not, for her, it's not necessarily all about a job and money. It's about doing what she loves and interacting with children.
My son is an avid athlete, and he plays basketball, lacrosse, soccer. We play sports probably 12 months of the year, maybe 11. He's a great student. He's a great kid, really outgoing. And my daughter, she is more of a performer and a dancer and more involved in the drama. Excellent student as well. They're great kids. I had a student one year, and he struggled throughout the year, and we worked endlessly. And the parents were very cooperative. We worked on, and by the end of the year, we had made huge, great strides, and the mom came to me, gave me a giant hug, and said, "You did it, and I can't thank you enough for all you did." And it touches you. I love it. Teaching is my life. If I couldn't be in a classroom, I don't know where I'd be. I'd have to be somewhere with kids. I want to be in the classroom. I want to be with those kids. I want to help, form their minds and help, make them successful, individual, independent learners. That's what I like to do.
Well, I think what's interesting is most people aren't familiar with charters. Like, what does that mean? How is that different from public education? And so the way I like to explain it is that it's just another choice for parents, for teachers, and for students to be able to have the best education possible. And so when folks ask, well, why a charter than a public school? My answer is simply, I want to be where kids need me most, right? So whatever school that is, I think there are schools in this country who need talented teachers who are going to do the work and get kids where they need to be. And if that happens to be a charter, then that's absolutely where I want to be. We've been able to do a lot with what we receive and still give kids the education that they deserve and the resources that they need. But obviously doing that with less money speaks volumes about the power of flexibility and what that means for education. Charter school is a place where I can be more flexible in my ideas and what I bring to the table. So for me, it's been beneficial to work in an environment where my voice is heard, like I can put my ideas out there as to what I think is best for students. So I teach 7th and 8th grade, right? And socially, middle school, I mean, you probably remember your middle school experience. I certainly remember how terrible and frightening that can be with bullying and trying to fit in and figure out who you are as an individual.
Well, what makes her a good teacher?
She just motivates our students, and she gets many awards for it. She got an award at her last job and stuff. I just think she's doing good.
I remember this one day, and it just so happened to be a day where I thought, why am I here? Why am I doing this? It was like a really rough day for me as a teacher. And so I come to my door and there's this purple sticky note on the door. I pick it up and I read it, and it says, "Miss H, thanks for seeing me." And it was signed her name. And so at first I thought, oh gosh, she must be thanking me for that extra time I spent tutoring or, helping her out. And so the next day I asked her, I said, "Hey, got your note, no problem, like we can spend time after school." And she says, "No, I want to thank you for literally like seeing me and seeing my abilities beyond all of these other things that I've carried." And so it was very powerful.
I think school choice, I think it's every parent's right to make a decision as to where they want to send their child. I know myself, my children go to our public schools. I teach here at our Catholic school, and my husband and I made that decision together for a variety of reasons, and we're very confident. I think every parent has to find the right fit for their child, and some schools are going to work for them and some schools aren't.
Public educators should have no fear of school choice because we're all in the same ball game. We're all doing the same thing. It's the good of education.
To think that more schools like this could open up and give other teachers a chance to find their niche, to find what works for them, even if it's not an online school or a certain type of school. Just like each student fits better in a different school, each teacher will fit better in a different school as well. And if you give the teachers more choices of what environment works for them, it's only going to make them better teachers as well.
I have friends that teach in public, I have friends that teach in Catholic, and I think, I don't know, I'm a firm believer that you've got to find the best fit for your child. And if the public school's not it, maybe a smaller classroom environment is what you need for your child.
My eyes have been opened to the way you actually can have, school choice and the way charter schools actually work.
To just completely disregard the idea of choice is almost mind-boggling. I would argue that folks who say that and have those arguments probably aren't sure exactly what the difference is between a charter and a district. And if they knew, right, if they really knew how both of these entities serve kids, I don't think they would have that argument. I think it's about choice, and I think if people knew that, we all like to have choice, right? We all want to have choice, so why not for education?
On the movement that's called education reform, I kind of think of first, I guess, you're trying to make it where students understand better and teachers teach better.
It's taken out as if you need education reform, it's because you have bad teachers, instead of you need a better way for those great teachers to present their ideas.
Teachers, you need to be held accountable for what you do. And it's hard to find a way to hold your teachers accountable. I understand that with standardized testing and etc. But there's got to be a way that you can hold teachers accountable for what they do, without a doubt.
We all become educated and really research it and make sure we're all trying to do what's best for the student instead of necessarily what looks best on a bill or best on paper. Education reform is a fabulous thing.
A teacher who has more than 3 years of experience, probably on average, they get visited 1 time a year by an administrator.
We only learn from our mistakes as a teacher. We learn to be a better teacher by hearing some of the criticisms and some of the things we can do better. I'm not opposed to being evaluated and suggested, here, you need to work on this. This is that you are not succeeding here, and you're doing a great job here. So let's keep that up. I think you have to be evaluated.
It's always been something that I wanted to do, and the satisfaction they get after they put in those hours and really work hard and understand something is awesome. They are so happy. That's the best part.
It's one of those things I always tell them, okay, you might not learn math in the past, but you're going to learn math this year. I learned that, if you ask questions, you can understand anything.
I love teaching. I just want to be a teacher, and yeah, I chose to be here, and I love every minute of it.
So I'd ask you a question in class, you get the answer right, and I would say something like, "Oh my gosh, class, that answer was so great that student deserves some swag," and the whole class does.